Appreciate that. So good to be here. And it's been when was the last RizeCon? 2019? Wow. Yeah, I spoke at that in the big room, but this is much more, this is better, more intimate here. So I specialize in home care, but have had a lot of experience in other industries, have coached a lot of companies in this area. And so what I'm going to teach or what I'm going to coach on today, most of it's because of what I failed at and then just learned from and then retooled and grew from it, right? And I think that in business, you really look at the most successful entrepreneurs. They're really ones that have failed fast and failed in ways that you can learn from. Hopefully you learn from me. And where I hopefully can help you grow from. Another thing that I've done in the last 5 years. So I exited Home Care Pulse in 2020. Some of you may have heard Eric Mattson this morning. He's my former business partner at Home Care Pulse. But when I exited, I became a coach, EOS implementer as well, and then also went and got my master's degree in positive psychology. Applied positive psychology from UPenn. And thankfully, it was the top program in the world for that. That's where my book came from, like the ideas from my book. But I am so passionate, and the reason I did that is I'm so passionate about culture and about retention in the workplace. And that was really the focus of my time at UPenn, is to really think about, okay, what keeps people in a company? And specifically in home care, we have a lot of turnover in home care. A lot of care professionals, a lot of challenges that come from that. It's an emotional type of work. And so I was really fascinated as far as what would keep those types of people in the home or working in the home, but all of it's transferable. And so we're going to kind of focus a lot of that today. Where I currently stand is I am in charge of expansion of this new partnership. We have 5 partners. I'm the partner involved with expanding our footprint when it comes to home care in an 8-state region. And part of that expansion, I look at cultures. I look at, I only want to be involved with companies that we might acquire and partner with that I feel like have already done a pretty good job with their cultures, so that we can integrate them with our own. And so this is my journey. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is where I'm at today. UPenn right there, Home Care Pulse. I'm a father of 6 kids, 3 boys, 3 girls. And like you, we all deal with our challenges. I have one child who's going through chemotherapy right now. So I wear my emotions on my sleeve, but I only share that because sometimes you might look at speakers or you might look at other people and say, okay, I can't relate with them. Or there's no way I could grow a company like Aaron Marcum or do what Aaron Marcum does. Well, I'm so human, it's scary, right? Is that I mess up, I screw up. I have things in my personal life that are real and that are challenges just like you. I didn't want to get out of bed this morning, right? Is that he was in the ER at 2 a.m. And so it's things like that we have to continue to grow and move. And I just want you to know that I get you. If you're going through something right now, I just feel impressed to share this for some reason. But if you're going through something right now, don't give up, right? You've got to keep going. You've got to find that inner energy, I guess you could say, to move forward. Because in each one of these elements of my journey, I've gone through some challenges, personal and professional. And some of those challenges have to do with culture and people. In your business, what percentage do you think of your challenges with your company and with your growth has to do with people? Anyone have any idea? I don't. What's that? 80%? Probably pretty close to 80%. In fact, in most companies, your biggest issues are what? Caused by what? People Then it's probably processes, right? Processes, technology perhaps. But when we look at challenges in our company, I always say, is it a people, a process, or both? Because it's usually one of those things when it comes to our challenges. This is my daughter, Anna. She graduated from Utah State. She is working now on her master's degree, just a really bright girl. She's only 21. And two summers ago, she was 19, heading into her 20th year. She wanted to learn something new, and she knew I had a friend who had a company in Island Park that rented these high-end, like $200,000 boats and would take people out on the reservoir. And so she's like, Dad, can you talk to him? Maybe there's a job there. And I talked to him, and he goes, well, the only job I have right now is a boat captain. And he's like, has she ever run a boat before? And he had only a few times, like not a whole lot of experience. And I keep going back and thinking about how much confidence and faith he must have had. And he met Anna. He said, okay, I'm going to give you this opportunity. He gave her the vision. Lowry, a good friend of mine, he's actually from this area. He's like, okay, this is what you need to do, and he gave her this vision. I call it the first 10%. Gave her the vision, trained her to the standard, and stepped back and trusted her. And I will always be grateful for this, because the confidence that grew that summer with my daughter was exponential. Where I don't know if she'd even have the confidence to get her master's degree if it hadn't been for this experience. She had to back the boat up. She was by herself, no help. Boat captain, that's a glorious term, but she had nobody else on that boat but her, and would take people around the reservoir all day and gassed it up, all the things, right? And for someone at that age, but I think we underestimate what our people are capable of. And so I have this term, Megan, who's our COO, and we use the term integrator in our company. It's an EOS term. Megan, raise your hand. Megan's been with me for a few years, and when she came on to our company a few years ago, the first week, she had my passwords. She had everything to do her job. It's because I have this term called give trust before they earn trust, because I have to be confident in my hiring practices to know, okay, I'm just going to give trust. I'm just going to give it. And it's something I've learned over time. It has not come easy. But that's what Lowry did for my daughter. Most owners focus on financials when thinking about exit readiness. And so I know some of you are here, you might be wanting to sell your business. I've done acquisitions, and I've also sold. I've been on both sides of the equations a few times. And so I'm speaking from experience that your valuation when it comes to your exit is so dependent upon your team. When Eric and I went and we got an evaluation of Home Care Pulse way back, I think in 2014, we thought we had a great business, but the business was dependent upon me and him. And so our business, when they gave us the valuation, oh my gosh, it was terrible. It was so low from what we thought our business was worth because of our people. We did not empower our people. We were doing a lot of things ourselves. And so that bench is really important. Deals don't fail because of bad numbers. They fail because the business can't survive without the founder. And so how do we do it? So with this model, this arc of retention model, I created from positive psychology, the science of well-being. And positive psychology is not the psychology of happiness, as you might think. It's really the science behind why some people thrive and why some people don't. And so this arc of retention, we're in the process of even trademarking it because we've found so much power behind it. But the arc of retention is based upon a 30-year-old theory that has been time-tested and researched called the self-determination theory. Anyone familiar with that theory? Self-determination? Yeah. It's why some people stay or why people stay in the workplace is really what that theory is all about. And so there's elements of that theory that we've incorporated in here, but we've even added some other things to make it even more relevant for today. But one of the most important parts of this arc of retention is the autonomy. And we have two pillars here, the autonomy and relationships. Also, I use the term relationships and relatedness interchangeably. Relatedness is the self-determination element. But autonomy is the number one reason why the right people, now I want you to really think this through, the right people stay. The wrong people in your business, the ones that are looking to be managed, they don't care as much about autonomy. They want you to give it to them, right? In most industries these days, those are the wrong people. You want people who don't need to be managed. When you make a hire and they have to be managed, you probably made the wrong hire in most cases. Now, there are exceptions. Field workers, people like that, but even them, they want autonomy. The right, even in my industry, care professionals, they don't want you to micromanage them. They want to have some freedoms as far as their autonomy goes. So the number one reason why people leave is when they don't have autonomy. It's researched. I promise you, that is the number one. So think of your own company. How autonomous are your people? And where are they figuring out things on for themselves? I'm gonna teach a real powerful concept around autonomy here in a second. Relatedness, relationships, you have to relate to your people. One of the things when I started Home Care Pulse and we started measuring satisfaction, that was Home Care Pulse is a satisfaction management company, performance benchmarking company in the home care industry. We measured over 4,000 home care providers throughout the country on their satisfaction of care professionals. And the number one reason why care professionals would not recommend employment to their friends and family and others is because their supervisor would talk down to them. Number one reason. They couldn't relate with the people that were overseeing them. So that also ties to the self-determination theory. You're going to have a more determined workforce when you can relate with them. So how are you doing with that? And the reason those are the two pillars is that when people figure out the how and they have more autonomy in their work, sorry, I'm just getting over a cold here, so I'm cracking a little bit, but they create more capability. The know-how to do the work, right? And what does more capability create? Confidence. And I have learned in my 25 years as an entrepreneur that confidence is the number one driver of success in the workforce. It really is. The more confident they are, the more successful you'll be in your company. And so that retention model is super powerful. So how do we create autonomy? I love this rule. I've kind of expounded on it. I love John Maxwell's work. And he has this kind of 10-80-10. I've made it more of the rule of autonomy than delegation, but it works the same way. Is 10-80-10. The first 10%, when we have a task, when we have a project, especially when we are hiring someone new and they have roles and responsibilities, we want to give them 10% of what does done look like. Define that success. Cast that vision. Set the standard like that Lowry did for my daughter. As he said, okay, this is what done looks like. This is the happy customer. This is what that looks like. And you cast that vision, that 10%. Then, if you've hired the right person for the job, and that's key here. If you've hired the right person, let them figure out how. Once you've cast that vision. That's the 80%. That's the autonomy. That's hard. That's super hard to do because we are trained not to do it that way. We're typically, in most workplaces, we're 60-30-10. Where we don't want to lose control, so we're in their business constantly, right? In that first 60% of whatever that project is. But if we can just cast that vision and say, okay, this is what my expectations are, they do that 80%. That 80% builds so much confidence in themselves. And what do we have to be okay with that 80%? Failure, mistakes, things that aren't going to go so well. And I have failed at this so many times, though. I still struggle with the 10-80-10, be really, truly honest with you. I struggle probably more with my kids than I do my team members when it comes to 10-80-10, is I want to be more in control of the outcome. But if we can just step back and really say, okay, I'm okay if there's some mistakes along the way, because that's how they're going to learn. And then the last 10%, we come back, we coach, and give them feedback. We call it closing the loop, whatever you want to call it, but you're going to give them feedback, make updates to whatever they're doing so that they can improve upon it and make it better. Now, there's some times where we hire people, I'm going back to my EOS days, but you hire somebody that is a great core value fit, but maybe they're not right for the seat. Maybe they're not, and so there's other elements here. I bring that up because there might be other reasons why this isn't working the way you want it to work, right? Or they may be in the wrong seat, and so you've got to fix those things and get those things right for this to flow the way I'm talking about. But just make sure that, okay, if I've got the right person, then I can let them flow. Megan's done that for me time and time again, where she just runs with it and exceeds my expectations almost every time. And over time, she has gotten better and better and better. There was a while back, and I hope Megan doesn't mind, I'm picking on her a little bit, but where we wanted to we had this really cool tool. It's called the Guiding Truce. I think that's here, yeah. Or no, we'll send it out if you subscribe to the newsletter. But it's a guiding truce tool on helping people find their purpose. And you answer 9 questions. The AI tool brings the answers together and gives you your kind of purpose statement, your guiding truce. What do you want to be true about yourself? Well, I gave her that 10% vision of what I wanted, the questions and so forth. And really the questions were in my book, so she took them from that. She built the AI tool. I didn't touch it, not once. In fact, I probably would have broken it if I had. She did it all. And then I came back and I looked, and we made maybe some really quick updates to it. But man, it was done so well. And it's because of that, right? You often, after a while, they'll do it far better than you could do it on your own. Relatedness, if your people don't feel connected to the mission, their leader, and each other, disengagement shows up fast. So I'm going to come back here so I can see this. Retention improves communication, strengthens performance, stabilizes. So with relatedness, again, how are you connecting with your people and making sure you're not talking down to them, right? Making sure that you're asking them questions about their personal lives. You're investing in them emotionally. That's why we created that Guiding Truce tool, because we wanted care professionals to know that we were invested in them. We've had people take that Guiding Truce, go through the AI questionnaire and so forth, and they're emotional about it. They finally feel like an employer is investing in them, and they haven't experienced that before. And so think about ways that you can show them that you're really, really listening, you really care, and that you're not just doing it for show, and there's some authenticity behind it, right? And that you're really investing in who they are. Which, again, I'm repeating a little bit, but that capability just expands. And that capability, again, grows where they figure out the how. Anyone read that book, Who Not How? Dan Sullivan. So I had the privilege of having Dan as my coach, and he has taught me, if you follow Dan around, he doesn't do, it's almost so extreme, right? He doesn't do anyhow. Like, the guy doesn't plan anything. His assistant travels with them. And he literally is in his genius almost 100% of the time. And I have been just fascinated by the way he approaches things when it comes to that who part. But think about that term, who, not how. It's so often in our businesses, we're too busy on the how. We're too busy trying to control the outcomes in our businesses, and that's not scalable. Who wants to scale their business? Yeah, I would hope all of us do, because if you don't scale in this day and age, whether you want to exit or not, eventually you're going to slow down and then start going, plateauing usually ends up this way, right? And so we all have to scale. That's how we survive, that's how we grow, that's how we expand. And we can't scale if we're in the how all the time. And so, who, not how, get the book, really powerful concept there. But as capability rises, performance becomes predictable. Why? Anyone? We're a small group. Yeah. Yeah, what you're doing, they respond the correct way over and over again, and you're training behavior, right? You're training, this is what it feels like, what done looks like. Hopefully, on this capability side, and I don't say it here, but we did a lot of it at Home Care Pulse, is you're recognizing them on that capability when they're really doing things well. We have this process called the Keep Communications process, keeping your top talent, where we start conversation with what's working before we ever get into what's not working, right? It's all about really helping them understand this is what you've done well when it comes to the capability. And then the confidence. That's the outcome, right? A plus R plus C equals confidence. They're just going to grow more and more. I didn't want to overcomplicate that formula, so that's pretty easy. A plus R plus C equals confidence. You don't have to hover. You don't have to be in their business all the time if you've hired the right people. And I want you to really think about it. If there's someone on your team where you feel like you've tried to give them autonomy, but they're constantly looking for management and for you to tell them exactly what to do and how to do it, they may not be the right person. Or they may be, I would first look at, they may be in the wrong seat. Because they might be doing something not wired to do, but maybe there's something else you could have them do, or another seat that they could fill. I like the term alignment rather than balance. Is balance is a myth, right, in life. Nothing's ever really truly balanced. And so there's this alignment. So lead in alignment with your company mission values. And recognize on your core values, lead with that alignment. That also creates more confidence. And again, building confidence with your team is key. I'm almost out of time here. But where I want you to ask this question, where am I still the bottleneck? Especially when it comes to that autonomy. If there's one thing that you take away from today, is where am I not giving enough autonomy with my team? So often, and I recognize this with past people that have worked for me, that after maybe they've left the company or whatever, I have realized that I was the problem. That I was not giving them enough autonomy, or I was too worried about the outcome, right? And so what do you need to give? Pick one area where you're holding that 80% or 60% or whatever that is. How can you give? And it could be a crawl, walk, run, right? Is first, you got to start somewhere. So start with a smaller project, perhaps, that you're working with somebody. Let them own that 80% and be okay with their failures and mistakes that they're going to make. I have also been on the other side where I have abdicated and not, I didn't want to be involved at all in something. Have you ever been on that side? Anyone heard that term abdication versus delegation? Abdication is when you're just washing your hands and saying, go do it. And they flounder and flounder. And what happens in those situations? Their confidence drops. They're frustrated. You didn't help. You didn't give them that 10% vision at all. And they're going to make more mistakes, but those mistakes are not because of them. They're usually because you didn't give them the right vision on what done looks like. So, really important. give them that, don't hand them the how, let them figure it out. A sellable business is a thriving business. So the first title was built to sell, but I want you to really think about sellable versus built to sell. What's the difference? If we are creating a company that's built to sell, sometimes we're putting lipstick on a pig, right? We're just trying to attract buyers. And if we go about that way, our processes are usually broken. We're usually not going about things the right way. We should always have a sellable business. We should always strive, like whether we're going to sell or not, a sellable business is a thriving business. It's a business that is built the right way. And so that's where I want to end. And it starts really with your people and your culture and the freedoms in which you give them, going back to the autonomy and the arc of retention. Open it up for questions. And I have a newsletter I put a lot into, so you might get something out of that as well. It's industry. A lot of our industry subscribes to it. I promise you, there's so many. It's just agnostic. It honestly is. Any questions? Yeah, Dustin. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really great question. So the question is, how do you know when to put someone if someone's in the right seat? How much time do you give them? Just from my own time frame, 3 to 6 months, because sometimes you just never know. And what I first hire for core values. I've had people who've been amazing core value fit, but I hired them for the wrong seat. And it's maybe because I didn't ask the right questions, or I got too excited about hiring it, and I put someone in that seat. But for the most part, it's that, I give them about 3 to 6 months because there's a learning curve. They got to learn the roles and responsibilities in that seat. But always ask, is it right, as you're going through the process of am I giving them enough? Am I giving them that vision? We always ask, AI is amazing right now, and so retention starts at hire, and so the more questions you can ask in the interview that are both core value focused as well as role and responsibility focused, questions that are situational, and making sure that you're getting that right hire. I mean, that's where it starts, right? But then anyone you hire, every hire is a risk, right? That's not the right term. I'll take that away. Every hire, you just don't know what necessarily the outcome will be until you've given them time. And I just give them enough, at least 3 months, to see if that's the right fit, and have enough conversations, which is something I honestly have not been great at in the past, is the check-ins, the conversations, and so making sure you're checking in on a regular basis. I don't know if that answers, but EOS really has kind of that right people, right seat model as well. Yeah. 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 Well, I've had so many people later on come back and thank me for not dragging it out, right? And I have really great friends that have been with my company, and again, one thing you got to remember is that when people don't work out, sometimes it's not their fault, right? And it just, you've got to have your ducks in a row. You have to know what you're hiring for, and it's really important that you don't drag it out, because that's not good for them. It's not good for you. You got to make that decision quickly. But again, give them as much freedom as you can. Give them your passwords, their very first week. I don't know. But thank you.